Radio Footlights.
Hello Footlighters and welcome to Podcast 5. How do you like our new theme tune? This month we have all the V's: Valentines, vaccinations, and of course, as always, variety. Let's start with a jab against the cold weather. It's musical medicine courtesy of Phil, Tom, and our own Neil Avery. Wow, great stuff. That was Reggae Rock by Phil, Tom and Neil, the sound of Caribbean sunshine. And speaking of which, is anyone else watching Death in Paradise? I'm catching up with the whole series from the beginning on BBC iPlayer. Brilliant. What programmes are you watching in lockdown? Do let us know. And if you fancy something a bit different, how about this?
Hello from the team at Rain or Shine Theatre. At Rain or Shine, we've proudly entertained Gloucester audiences with live theatre for over 20 years, but sadly it's been a whole 12 months since we've been able to tread the boards for your enjoyment.
So, if you've had enough of watching the same old things on lockdown TV, or started on the bookshelf for the second time round, why not log into rainOrShine.co.uk on your computer or mobile device and be entertained on video stream from our archives of classic comedy productions.
From Shakespeare to Sheridan, Charles Dickens to Sherlock Holmes, we've captured every play on film for you to watch free of charge at home, with new ones added weekly.
And if you like what you see, please spare a fiver to help us through these tough times until we can all get back together in safety, enjoying live productions once again. Thank you.
Ah, that was a beautiful original piece by our friend in Scotland, Alec Lowe, called Reflections. How relaxing and romantic. Thanks, Alec. Now, we've all been reflecting on the effect that the pandemic is having, and particularly on our high street shops. Here's a special report on the sad demise of our dear old Debenham store.
Hello, this is your Footlights roving reporter, Reuben Stanley. I expect, like me, you were sad to hear that the iconic Debenham store in Gloucester has now closed. Although the Debenhams brand will live on as an online business, it looks unlikely that the 240-year-old building will be used as a department store again. According to Gloucester City Council leader Richard Cook, the building is under offer at the moment, but its future is unknown. So what do we know about this iconic building? Originally a drapery business founded in 1889 by a Cornishman named John Roe Pope. Extensions were added to the building in 1909 and 1924. Then, in the summer of 1928, great upheaval to the city centre was witnessed when St Aldgate Street, Oxbow Lane and King Square were razed to the ground to make way for a large redevelopment. A local pub called the Dolphin Vaults was demolished to make way for a greatly extended Bon Marche, which became known to local people as the Bon. When the Bon reopened in the mid-1930s, it was one of the most modern and largest under one roof shopping emporiums in the west of England. It was claimed that you could buy anything at the Bon, and the store staged regular publicity stunts to promote this view. At various times in its history, it was possible to buy a car, a sailing boat, or even an aeroplane from Gloucester's favourite department store. The tiny monoplanes called the Flying Flea were designed by a Frenchman and came in kit form. They were cheap, easy to build, and as you didn't need a pilot's license, people with no previous experience of aviation beavered away with screwdriver and spanners and then took to the skies. Unfortunately, the Flying Flea had a drawback. Once in a dive, it kept diving. Pulling back on the joystick made no difference, as a number of amateur airmen found to their fatal cost. I wonder what memories you, our Footlight listeners, have of either the Bon or Debenhams. Don Smith told me that his wife Joyce worked in the food hall. Ron Curtis remembers the Bon and Debenhams having a large and very good choir. My own memory of Debenhams was as a teenager coming on the bus from Cheltenham to visit the large record department in the basement of Debenhams. After this podcast, why not make a cup of tea and cast your mind back to your previous visits to either the Bon or Debenhams. I am sure that Ross and Lorraine would love to hear any special memories that you might have.
Thanks to Reuben and to the Gloucestershire Heritage Hub for the images, and good luck to King Square for the future. Now it's time for a few laughs.
Lockdown, levity, ah ha 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 ha.
Hello, Chinas, it's your old pal Chick here with a few one-liners. Hey, if you're ever looking for a Valentine's Day chat-up line, try this one. Hello there, I didn't know angels could fly so low. Did you know that petrol station flowers on Valentine's Day proves that you care for someone slightly more than not at all? What travels around the world but stays in one corner? A stamp. This is for the teen in all of us.
I'm going to spend Valentine's Day with my ex. Box.
Ha ha! Thanks, Chick. Now here's a more poetic take on Valentine's Day from our own Joyce Neal.
On Valentine's Day, some send cards and flowers, others balloons shaped like hearts. Whatever is chosen on Valentine's Day, it may be the way romance starts. And from the smallest beginnings, a wonderful love story can grow. And rings and marriage proposals may be the way it will go. But please do remember, it's only one day of the year, and a daily dose of affection is needed the rest of the year. It could be a kiss or a cuddle, a smile or a touch of the hand, a pat on the back or a whisper, or the twist of that gold wedding band. However you show your affection, it need not cost the earth. Just recall, it was Valentine's Day that brought all this joy to birth.
Thank you, Joyce, as always. And if anyone is looking for a late Valentine's gift, how about these?
Oh, darling, I do love these cosy winter nights in. TV's on, box of chocolates and, oh, what are these?
I thought you'd like a lovely aroma to fill our living room, darling. Open them up.
Oh, what a surprise! What are they?
They're new from Footlights. Me Lights Aromatic Tea Lights.
They sound so relaxing. What's this one?
That's the fragrance of a hot chocolate drink dripping with marshmallows.
That's delicious. This one?
Hot sausage roll and baked beans. A real winter warmer and with added fragrance.
Oh, you are spoiling me. And this one?
That's Footlight's #1 bestseller, Me Light Fragrant Tea Light. It's the scent of Shirley's cake and a pot of tea.
Oh, it so reminds me of happy days with Footlights friends, sharing chat, songs and jolly jokes at the hall.
Now you know why it's their #1 seller.
I like Me Lights. Oh, thank you, darling.
Me Lights Tea Lights from Footlights. Out now.
Ooh, I like the sound of those me lights. Lovely. Back to Reuben now for a special Valentine quiz.
Question 1. In Japan, what do women give men on Valentine's Day? Question 2. Which Roman goddess was Cupid's mother? Question 3. As well as being the unofficial patron saint of love, what occupation is St. Valentine also believed to be the patron of?
How intriguing. Answers later in the programme. There's always much to be learned on Radio Footlights, and we like to hear more about the lives of our fellow Footlighters too. This month our interview guest is Mr. Stuart Mitchell. Having known the family for about 15 years, I was aware that Stuart had a background in virology, so when he rang us last March to alert us to the scale of the approaching pandemic, we realised that Footlights would have to stop meeting, and sooner rather than later. Nearly a year on, his wise advice is just as important. The lockdown is working and is certainly our safest way out of the situation. Yes, it is a tough path and we need to be patient, but we will get there. I spoke to Stuart recently via Zoom and he praised the amazing achievement of the vaccination rollout. In fact, most Footlighters have now had one, if not both jabs. Isn't it great that Gloucestershire, the county of Edward Jenner's birth, has been leading the field in this? I think he'd be very pleased and proud about that. More on Jenner later. It was very reassuring to hear Stuart's thoughts on the pandemic from a purely scientific perspective. And I asked him how he had first become interested in virology.
I was a young man. I'd been working in the hospital pathology lab for some time, and I saw an advertisement for Glaxo Research in their virology research establishment at Greenford in Middlesex. And they were offering what looked at that time to be a magnificent salary. So I applied and fortunately got the job, which was a wonderful change in my career. I joined a small team. In the early days of virology, there wasn't a huge amount of information about what we were doing. We were given pretty much free hand to look at all sorts of aspects of virology, much of it new ground. One interesting activity is that we were producing a substance called interferon, which is something which cells produce when they're infected by viruses. And at the time, there was a lot of excitement about it. People thought this was going to be the virus penicillin. Fortunately, it never came to fruition. So a lot of work and a lot of effort went into it. However, I do hear occasionally that it's being used in some therapeutic circumstances, so perhaps not a total loss. Activity was the production of measles vaccine. Decided it wanted to be the first manufacturer of measles vaccine for use in the UK. So we received one tiny little frozen ampoule of virus from the United States and one A4 size foolscap at that stage of instructions on how to grow it. And from that, our little team developed it into a full-blown vaccine, and it became the first licensed vaccine. That was a huge platform for my career. Unfortunately, the company decided to move the facility up north, and I didn't want to move. I got a job in Nigeria during the Civil War. My job was to recover the vaccine production for veterinary use in Nigeria and generally in West Africa. I spent a couple of years out there working for the UK government. When I came back, I took a temporary job with the Public Health Laboratory, once again working in virology labs in Watford this time, running a virus lab and an immunology lab. However, I was headhunted by another pharmaceutical company, Wellcome Research. And I joined them, headed up their veterinary vaccine group, where we produced a whole range of vaccines for animals. Sadly, once again, they moved the facility away up north. Another huge step in my career, away from virology, but still in the medical world. I joined a company called Amersham International, which was setting up a completely new facility in Gloucester. Hence my move from London to Gloucester. We were producing kits, medical kits, two parts. One was for kits used in laboratories, and the other were kits which were used in scanning brains and hearts using radioactivity. Spent some 20 years there until, once again, and I took another significant change in my career. I became an inspector of medical devices, a 2-year secondment to the Department of Health in London, where I learned about medical devices, but particularly sterile medical devices because of my microbiology background. And I became licensed to inspect companies who were making medical products, medical devices, everything from a heart pacemaker down to a bandage. Around the world, in order to license them, to sell their products in the European Union and get a CE mark, which we're all familiar with. So that took me around the world for some 10 years or so until I retired. With my start in virology, I've been following all the trends. And in fact, the arrival of COVID-19 was very exciting for me because I was able to follow all the steps of its growth and its demise. And hopefully I'll be able to see its elimination.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing that. That was a fascinating career journey, and we've all learned a lot more about that. That's amazing. Thank you, Stuart. And my next question to you is, do you have a favourite song, film or book? Would you like to tell us about that and maybe explain why it's your favourite?
Well, I have one of each, actually, Lorraine.
Oh, go for it.
First of all, the book. And one which I was absolutely knocked out when I started to read it and hardly able to put it down. It's a very large book with over 1,000 pages called The Pillars of the Earth by an author called Ken Follett.
I know that. I've read it.
Book. You have? Oh, good.
I have. It's brilliant. Yes, I totally agree with you.
Yes. The story is set in the 12th century with a stonemason who is involved in the building of a new cathedral. Absolutely fascinating story of the time, the villagers, the individuals, the church, and indeed the state at the time. I thought it was a wonderful tour de force and loved the book from cover to cover.
I totally agree with you.
Film-wise, Dances with Wolves, an unusual choice. I think Dancing with Wolves demonstrated how good proper cinema is, with widescreen and brilliant scenes. There were so many outdoor wonderful shots which were part of that, and a lovely, heartwarming story. I could watch it time and time again.
Well, I know what you mean.
And finally, the music, Maria by Johnny Mathis. It shows my age. Stella in particular was a very keen follower of Johnny Mathis, and I've got to enjoy him as well. But I think Maria is the peak of his recording. I heard him interviewed once where he was saying how he tried to extend his voice so that he would have the sort of range that some women have. And I think in Maria, he came very close to that aim.
Obviously sang a lot of very romantic songs. As we have just had Valentine's Day, I thought we should conclude our chat with a question about your dear Stella, the love of your life, of course. Could you share with us the story of how and where you first met, please, Stuart?
Yes, absolutely. An inauspicious start, unfortunately. We first met at a party. Unfortunately, we were both working in London at the time. It was a party in London. I was working at the Brompton Hospital at the time in a virology lab. I had seriously cut one of my thumbs and I'd had a number of stitches in the thumb.
Ooh.
So I'd been to casualty and I'd been sutured up, a great big dressing on it. I wasn't feeling on top of the world, but I went to the party, a small room, very crowded, and people kept knocking into it and grabbing it, all sorts of things. No. I met Stella and we introduced each other and had a few words, but I was so unsettled with my thumb that I'm afraid I left early. I did, however, get Stella's telephone number and I did ring her a little later and we arranged a date. Interestingly, I remember the first date, and that was to go and see the film The Sound of Music at the Dominion Theatre in London. So we continued to go out together, became engaged. We got married in 1968. And immediately after getting married was the time when I took the job in Nigeria. So I took my new bride within a month or so of getting married to this wild country, which was in the midst of a civil war. So this was a real test of our devotion to each other. We both managed extremely well. And indeed, my daughter, Bari, who still lives in Tuffley, was born out there, so it has very fond memories. So after that raft of jobs which I had, I got the job with Amersham, and that's what brought me to Gloucester. We think Gloucester is the nicest place that we've ever lived. We're very happy here. We've been here, well over 30 years now. We almost feel as though we're locals at this time.
Oh, you certainly are, yes. And that's a lovely story, Stuart. And thank you for sharing it with us. And we've really enjoyed having you here on Radio Footlights. Many thanks to you, and all the best to you, Stella, and all the family. Take care and stay well. And now we're going to learn a little bit more about the aforementioned Edward Jenner, as researched by our good friend John in Leicestershire. So over now to Ross.
Edward Jenner, son of the Vicar of Berkeley, was born in 1749. He spent much of his childhood exploring the fields and hedgerows surrounding the town of Berkeley in Gloucestershire, learning about plants and their various properties. He left the town to train as a surgeon, later returning to work on various remedies. In 1796, he first vaccinated against smallpox. He did this by inoculating a young lad, James Phipps, with cowpox, a disease similar to smallpox but far less deadly. He found that this provided immunity to the more dangerous disease. Jenner's vaccine travelled throughout the world. 200 years later, the disease was under control, and in 1979 was declared eradicated. Jenner's work is said to have saved more lives than the work of any other human. In 1825, a memorial was erected to him in Gloucester Cathedral, and in 2002 he was named in the BBC's list of 100 Greatest Britons. Today, other vaccines inspired by Jenner save between 2 and 3 million lives per year.
Many thanks to John in Leicestershire for those fascinating facts, and we'll be having more Words from Woodford in future podcasts. Now over to Reuben for those Valentine quiz answers.
Question 1. In Japan, what do women give men on Valentine's Day? Chocolates. Question 2. Which Roman goddess was Cupid's mother? Venus. And question 3. As well as being the unofficial patron saint of love, what occupation is St. Valentine also believed to be the patron of? Beekeepers. Hope you enjoyed the Valentine's Day quiz.
Thank you, Reuben. Good quiz. Are you all ready for a bit more romance? Here's our own folk duo, Alec and Ross, with A Fond Kiss.
A fond kiss, and then we sever. A farewell, alas, forever. Deep in heart-wrung tears, I'll pledge thee. Warring sighs and groans, I'll wage thee. I'll ne'er blame my partial fancy. Nothing could resist my Nancy, but to see her was to love her, love but her, and love forever. Had we never loved so kindly, had we never loved so blindly, never met or we'd ne'er been so broken hearted. A fond kiss, and then we sever. A farewell, alas, forever. Deep in heart-wrung tears, I'll pledge thee. Warring sighs and groans I'll wage thee.
That was A Fond Kiss, one of Robert Burns' most famous love songs, written in 1791 and sent in a letter to his sweetheart Agnes, addressed as Nancy in the ballad. How lovely to have a song as a gift! And if you're looking for such a thing, how about this unique CD?
New on Footlights Records.
Hello, Footlighters. It's your old friend Brucey with music hall hits from yesteryear. These have always been my favourites. And I'm here in the studio with my friends, Mr. Bombastic himself, Brian Blessed, and theatre darling, Sir Donald Sinden.
Windsor, Windsor, give me your antiques too. I'm half crazy, never the twain with you.
Thanks, Donald. And from one sir to another, here's one from me about my dear old dad. My old man's a Dutchman, and he wears a Dutchman's hat. He wears coal blimey trousers. Go on, Dad, give us a twirl. Didn't he do well? And now for Mr. Voiceover. Take it away, Brian.
I've got a lovely voice for radio. Just be sure to turn the volume down. Yelling, shouting could even wake the dead. No! Flash Gordon's alive!
Nice to hear you, Brian. To hear you, nice. Oh, these have all been my favourites. Now pop down to your record shop for your very own copy of Sir Bruce's You're My Favourite Music Hall Hits. Did we do well?
Were you all singing along there? I hope so, because it's nearly time for our music hall style finale, which is a song I've titled Back to the Hall, accompanied by Mr. Alec Lowe. But before that, a few more chuckles with Chick.
Lockdown, levity, ah ha 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 ha.
Welcome back, Chinas. It's your pal Chick Murray here. Did Adam and Eve ever have a date? No, but they had an apple. What did the boy octopus say to the girl octopus?
Can I hold your hand, 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 hand?
What kind of flowers do you never give on Valentine's Day? Cauliflowers. And finally, what's the difference between a 14-pound steak and a 25-pound steak? February the 14th.
Cheers, Chick. And many thanks to all our amazing contributors. We'll be back for an Easter-themed podcast in March, so until then, stay safe and well. Bye for now, and take it away, Maestro. After the COVID's over, after the lockdown ends, then we'll go back nights, seeing our dear old friends. Many a tear and handshake, cuppers and hugs for all. Many a heart will be mended back at the hall.
Radio Footlights.